Hey YA nerds, my name is Kaye and I like to read a lot, and this week I'm going to talk to you about The Beast is an Animal by Peternelle van Arsdale. I had to actually read that off the cover because I'm really bad at pronouncing that. So here's the cover of the book, another gorgeous book cover. I own this book, there's no library spine, and it's got those cool scalloped edges that were like all the rage a couple of years ago, which I actually had someone return a book once when I worked at the bookstore because they thought it was damaged. It's just pretty, I don't know. Anyway, so I purchased this book a couple years ago, again, when I worked at the bookstore, and it was one of those books that, again, I was like, that's a pretty cover, and doesn't this look like a hooded figure in the middle of the woods? Yeah, no, that's just a tree stump. It was published February 28th and February 28th, 2017. I can English today. And it's 343 pages. So this book follows one main character girl. Her name is Alice. They spell it A-L-Y-S, which I think is very interesting. And she lives in a village that one day she sleepwalks into the field and meets these two other girls, but they're just called the Soul Eaters. And she meets them in the field. They touch her on either shoulder. She feels an energy pass between them through her, and then she goes to sleep in the field. And when she wakes up the next morning, all of the adults in her village have been killed, and all of the children in the village are in a deep sleep. She's picked up the next morning by a young gentleman who's like a peddler. He's traveling through, and they discover this atrocity together. And then the two of them gather up all the children, and move them to a town, a little further down. Now, this book takes place kind of like in a medieval time, so villages are not like next to each other. They're like miles apart. And what ends up happening is the next village over takes them all in, and everything kind of goes downhill from there, which kind of sounds crazy, like you would expect everything to get better, but this is YA, so everything goes downhill. After that, the main character Alice kind of sees the twin sisters again a couple of times, and the twin sisters set their sights on the new village that all of these kids have moved into. It's creepy. It's exciting. It's got a little bit of supernaturalness to it, which I really loved. The twin sisters are spooky as all get out. But yeah, I think the fascinating examination that this book does is that adults are evil, children are good. And the author kind of explores all of that through her novel. And even with Alice, we see her evolve like into a hero. She stands up for the kids in the village. It's really interesting. I don't think I'm giving it enough credit. This is also one of those books I finished in like a night, like 2 days, probably, like anywhere from 24 to 48 hours I read this book in. Couldn't put it down once I picked it up, and I'm excited to keep talking about it with you guys. The tropes for this book, there are a couple. We have, let me explain what the tropes are first. I'm doing real good today, guys. So, the tropes are a list of 38 different definitions that I've cobbled together using my own knowledge about YA, as well as different internet sites and other librarians, and talking to other YA readers. I've borrowed some of them from like TV tropes, but a lot of them are just things that I've made up. So, if you want to know more about them, usually when I list them in an episode, I'll put the definitions down below in the description, and you can figure out what the heck I'm talking about. But for this book, we have Beauty Blind, Broken Family Units, Clueless Adults, like most YA books, Obscure Prologue, Straight as an Arrow, Strong/Smart Female Protagonist, Undiscovered Power, and Youths in Danger, which is also like a lot of YA books. I don't know why I keep putting Clueless Adults and Youths in Danger in all of these, because they're in like almost every book that comes out. Maybe once or twice. Maybe the one book I just finished reading is less Clueless Adults. But I feel like that's like a backbone of YA lit. Like the adults have no clue what's going on with their kids, and that's how the kids get away with all the things they get away with. Could be true to life too. My parents had no idea what I was doing as a teenager. There's nothing wrong with that. So this week I'm actually excited to talk about the Readalikes because I've read most of them, or half of them. Let me explain how it works again. So there are 2 different websites that I use to make the Readalikes. One of them is Goodreads, a website owned by Amazon, which is not really my favorite thing about it, but I use it to track my reading. If you want to follow me on Goodreads, you totally can. The link to my profile is also down in the description. And usually, like I said, I just use that to track what I want to read and what I've already read. It's a really helpful tool for that, especially when you've read 2,000 books like I've read. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think I'm at 2,000. Or I'm close to it, or I've just surpassed it. This year already I've read 60 books. So like, it just makes my life easier. Their recommendations, I feel like, are based off of data about the reader more so than the book. And a lot of people tag the books with different descriptors, and I think that's how the recommendations are generated. Whereas the other site that I use, Novelist, is hosted, it's a database that's hosted by EBSCO, which is a big database hosting company, and they base their recommendations more on different factors that the books have. Yes, those are also designated by humans, but the humans in this case are librarians, and that's like their job. So that site's mostly used for like reader's advisory, which is when you go to a librarian and you ask them, hey, I just read this great book. What book should I read next? And that's how you get the recommendations from that. So when you pull up The Beast is an Animal, you might see like darkly written, I wouldn't say fast-paced, female main character, etc., etc. And the list that is generated on the profile of the book then points you to other books. And that's how I've come up with the Novelist recommendations. So for Goodreads, we have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I have not read this book. I do know that the main character is a librarian, and I do know that there are some fairy things that happen in this book. It is also on my list. And I've read her other book, which I probably will talk about next week or the week after that. Her other book's Enchantment of Ravens, where I'll get to it. That book was amazing, so I'm assuming Sorcery of Thorns is amazing. If I owned Sorcery of Thorns, I would have read it already, but we're in quarantine, so I can't get it. Anyway, the other book is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I know nothing about this book. The cover looks really interesting, but that's it. I'm assuming that it's recommended based on main character and tone of book, so maybe it's also spooky. Maybe it also has some weird supernatural forest thing going on, just like in The Beast is an Animal. But that's all I know about it. And I don't even know anything about it. So there you go. For Novelist, we have Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor, which is one of my favorite books, and I will probably review it for this channel at some point soon. I don't think I have yet. Have I? I don't think I have. If I have, it's here on the channel. If I haven't, it's coming, because it's seriously one of my favorite books. That one's about a girl main character. Her name's Karu. I love her name. She works for a monster collecting teeth for him, which is just the tip of the iceberg. She's also an art student who goes to school, oh my god, nope, not Budapest, maybe Budapest, I don't remember, a European country. Some famous city in Europe, and she is an artist, but she also has like these crazy dreams, and one day all these burned handprints start showing up all over her city, and she has to kind of figure out what the heck's going on. That book is crazy, and I love it, and it's a trilogy, and I want it to be like a really well done book series, TV series rather, but I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. Go read it, it's really good. And the other book, sorry, my cat's making noises. The other book that Novelist gave me was Graceling by Kristen Kishore, which I have also read. That trilogy is also really amazing. That one's about a young girl who lives in a world where if you're born with 2 different colored eyes, you have a grace. And you kind of have to discover what that grace is. So the main character, oh my god, I don't remember. Oh, Katsis. Katsis? Katsis. I think I remember it being Katsis, and I think that's sticking with me because I think I read that right after I finished The Hunger Games, so I kept saying Katniss over and over again. I think it's Katsis. She has a grace that they think it's that she is a good murderer. It turns out to be a little different than that, and you have to read the book to find out, and it's really good. But she has to go to a neighboring kingdom or something. I forget what the exact plot is. You know, I should talk about this book because I really loved this whole trilogy and I own it. Yeah, I have all 3 books. I'm staring right at them. So maybe soon. But yeah, so those are our 4 books. So my review for The Beast is an Animal is shocker, a 10 out of 10. Shocker. I don't keep books. Like, I buy books, and if I hate them, I get rid of them. So the fact that I still have this book and I bought it like 2 years ago will tell you exactly how I feel about it. It surprised me, honestly. You know, I did that thing where I was like, ooh, pretty cover, and I bought the book, and then I was like, shouldn't have done that. The only good news was that I got it at a discount because I worked at the bookstore. So, and that's kind of how I justify when I buy bad books. I can't do it anymore because I don't have a discount. But when I did, it was like, well, even if it's bad, I'll just donate it to the library. And I had been doing that for a while. So like, I was enamored with this book from the second I picked it up, which is like weird because it took me 2 years to actually pick it up. Like, I think I read it last year, which is crazy because I bought it 3 years ago. I bought it right after it came out. I bought it in 2017 and I didn't read it until 2019. And I was like, why did I wait this long? This book is amazing. And like, the ending was super satisfying. It was just the right level of creepy for me. Like, I like creepy books. I don't like horror movies, but I like scary books. Because my theory is when you're sitting through a horror movie, you can't stop the horror from happening. Like, if I get overwhelmed and bad thing happened, like, you can't say stop and make it stop. You have to sit there and finish the horror movie, and I don't like that. However, when you're reading a horror book and you get to a point that's scary or no, too much, stop, you can close the book and put it down and wait until you're in a better headspace to pick up book and keep reading. So I like scary books for that reason. I like reading creepy things because I know it's a book and I can put it down. That being said, one time I started reading a creepy book and I put it down for a year. It happens, you know, whatever. But yeah, so this book's really good. I highly recommend it. Purchase it digitally if you must. There are no weird things that happen on the pages, but you will notice that they spell forest with 2 F's. I think that's like a medievally colonial times thing going on. Why did I say medieval earlier? I feel like it's more like colonial, like Salem witch trials time period era, 1600s to the 1700s. That's not medieval. It's okay. I'm still here. I just can't word very good these days. So that's it. That's all I have to say about this book. Again, my name is Kaye, and I read a lot. And if you want to talk to me about The Beast is an Animal or any other creepy book recommendation, feel free to leave me a comment down below. And I guess I will see you all next week. Peace out, YA nerds.